We live in a world where technology is growing faster than we can imagine. It improves our lives, our businesses, and connects us in ways that 10 years ago we never thought possible. And we just can't get enough.
Systems access.
But it also leaves us vulnerable to cyber attacks, to scams, and to identity theft. 1 in 5 Australians fall victim to cybercrime every year, with potential to cost the Australian economy $1.6 billion over the next decade. And if you still don't think it'll happen to you, then think again.
Russian spies pulled off a massive hack attack on Yahoo.
WA is at high risk.
First computer systems in Europe went down. Then Russia's biggest oil company was infiltrated.
The FBI hunt is continuing.
This type of attack doesn't really discriminate.
Its tills were locked by a virus, hackers demanding a bounty to open them up again.
Stealing all that personal information from more than 500 million Yahoo users.
And WA isn't immune.
Here at Edith Cowan University, there are around 400 future cyber defenders, all of them studying one of the world's leading cybersecurity courses. The man at the helm of ECU's Security Research Institute is a man with some pretty impressive credentials. Professor Craig Valli has over 30 years in the information communications technology industry. He consults not only to industry, but also to the government. He's the current president of the Australian chapter of the High-Tech Crime Investigators Association and a member of the Interpol Cybercrime Experts Group. This is a man who knows what he's talking about. Craig, what courses are run here at the university?
We offer a bachelor's, a master's and doctoral studies in cybersecurity.
And what sorts of careers can those degrees get you?
Most large corporations need cybersecurity professionals to work. You can work with law enforcement, you can work with intelligence agencies, you can work for defence, and there's a worldwide shortage in the 100,000 plus range.
Tell us about that worldwide shortage. There's plenty of demand for the students who come through here, yeah? There's
very high demand for the students. In fact, some of our undergraduates, some of our better undergraduates are actually in part-time work at pay rates of $120,000 plus.
That's huge, and they haven't even finished their degree yet.
No, and some of them don't because of that. But
so they get poached straight out of here.
Poached straight out of. The demand is so high just in Australia alone, but worldwide it's even further exacerbated.
So that demand is there because of cyber vulnerability. What does the term cyber vulnerability actually mean?
So cyber vulnerability, it's like any vulnerability. If we go back to a house, if you accidentally leave your front door open, there's a vulnerability there that someone can come and exploit by just literally turning the door because you haven't locked your door.
So on the flip side then, what is security?
Security is ensuring that you can still accomplish your mission, particularly in business, or in the case of individuals, protect the information that is near and dear to you from prying eyes.
So how are we most vulnerable to these attacks?
There's several avenues we're attacked as individuals, so they're financially coming after us with credit card details. The other one is that they're tracking the information that we hold or create that's about us. And then there's also the information and the intellectual property that we create in our businesses. And remember that we're only 30 to 50 milliseconds from anywhere in the world on the internet.
Ransomware attacks continue to make headlines. What is ransomware?
So ransomware is just a particular genre or type of malicious code that is sent to your computer. It locks your access out, and then the only way that you typically can get re-access to it is by paying a ransom to the ransomers.
The Mother's Day rush was thrown into turmoil at this dome in the city. At the weekend, its tills were locked by a virus, hackers demanding a bounty to open them up again.
Now this ransom that's demanded is now being used by the really advanced cyber criminals, and they know by your postcode how much money you can sustain. The demands for individuals are somewhere between 300 to sometimes as high as 5,000, again, depending largely on your socio-economic standing. People have to realise as they connect to the internet, they are open to all of the evils and the crime that's out there.
What would you say to someone who thinks that this is not going to happen to them?
It's not a matter of if it will happen to you. And for some people, it's already happened and you don't even know.
Perth's isolation is no longer a form of defence, with cyber criminals just one click away. Let me put it like this. If you had a LinkedIn account in 2012, then it's highly likely that your email and your password were stolen when the company's database was hacked, and your personal details would have been sold on the deep dark web, the internet's equivalent of the black market. Coming up, how the simple act of leaving your home can make you vulnerable.
So as soon as you get into your car's vulnerable, your mobile phone. If you're wearing a fitness tracker as well, that's also vulnerable to attack.
Cybercrime is one of the fastest growing criminal acts worldwide, and it's leaving us far more vulnerable than ever before. Professor Craig Valli is one of the world's leading experts in the area of cybercrime and security. So Craig, when I think of a cyber criminal, I'm thinking someone who's socially isolated, wearing a hoodie in the darkness of their basement. But that's not always the case, is it?
No, unfortunately, that's a long-held stereotype. These days, it includes those people, but it's really in the realm of organised criminal activity these days.
Not necessarily everything you see on TV then?
No, definitely not. Things occur a lot slower, and also, too, some of the actual gains that these people make in theft of IP and money are quite high. It's a very well-paying crime type.
So let's take it into the real world then. I leave home to go to work.
Yep.
How vulnerable am I in that case?
So as soon as you get into your car's vulnerable, your mobile phone. If you're wearing a fitness tracker as well, that's also vulnerable to attack.
Well, let's start with mobile phones then. So how can I protect my mobile phone?
You can apply standard, what we call countermeasures, so make sure that you do the latest updates and upgrades to all the software on your phone as they come through. Make sure that you install antivirus protections on your phone. The other one is watch where you connect with your phone. Don't willy-nilly connect to wireless access points just because it's free.
The fitness tracker, what can I do to protect that from being hacked?
Part of the problem is that they're connected, and this is the problem with the Internet of Things. They're very highly exposed, and if there's a vulnerability found in them, because a lot of the source code or the code that these devices runs on is embedded into a chip and burnt into a chip, it's frozen. It's very hard to update these devices and protect against these vulnerabilities.
The credit card skimmer scares me because you can have your details stolen, you would never know. Are there steps that you can take to prevent that happening?
There are sheaths that you put the card into. You've got them for passports too. Anything that's RFID enabled, there is typically a product out there relatively cheap and inexpensive, sort of in the $5 to $10 bracket. It may seem expensive at $10, but remember this credit card contains access to your lines of credit, which are a lot better than $10, I hope.
We love that idea of having our cars connected to the internet. Are there any steps that we can actually take to hack-proof a car?
Unfortunately, we're very reliant on the car manufacturers and those that produce those systems to ensure that they're protected. So the best we can do is make sure that our car is regularly serviced by the manufacturer of the car or a person that's capable of making sure those updates are applied, and also to watch if a car company sends you a notice to come and get your car patched or updated, go in and do it. These things have death consequences. If someone does something really bad with you, they can crash you into a wall and kill you, and others.
But it's not all doom and gloom. Coming up next, tips to help you protect yourself and your family.
It really is a first step that you should take, and the important point to make here is that it's a reputable antivirus program.
In a rapidly changing technical world, cybercrime has the potential to impact all of us. The average Australian family home has up to 9 devices connected to the internet, and these devices are all potential open doorways to cyber criminals. Meet the Hill family. Mum Anna works in the social media industry. Dad Brad works FIFO. Their eldest, Kalia, is 14 and in Year 10. Middle child Jarvis is aged 13 and in Year 8. And 10-year-old Wakelin is the youngest. Well, Anna, how does your house stack up in terms of cyber security?
I think we're reasonably in the middle of the field there. We understand that there are issues, but I don't have the time to monitor constantly. So we know what's out there, but can't implement everything.
So you've set some rules in place. What are those rules?
So we have rules. There is no entertainment during the week because that's school time. So they're only allowed to play games and watch television on the weekend. They don't know the Wi-Fi password. They don't know iTunes passwords. I have all of those. With their devices, they're meant to be kept in a central location of a night time when they go to bed. Only one of my children is allowed to have the device in their room for homework. The other two have to have it out in the common area.
Working alongside Professor Valli is Rochelle Fleming, ECU's Research Development Advisor, and she's the bearer of some good news. It's not all doom and gloom. There are things we can do to protect ourselves. Well, Rochelle, how safe is the Hill house?
Look, Anna and her family have taken some fantastic steps forward in terms of securing themselves when using the internet. But there are a few more things that they could do.
It sounds scary, but there are some steps that we can take and some of those tips. The first one is having an antivirus program on your computer.
Look, it really is a first step that you should take. And the important point to make here is that it's a reputable antivirus program. And some of your computers nowadays, in fact, Windows computers, often come with an antivirus program installed. So just make sure it's turned on.
In addition to using reputable programs, ensure existing software is up to date. And if you don't have antivirus, you can find plenty of options, including some free ones online.
And in terms of having up-to-date software, that's key as well.
What people don't realise is often packaged within that software update is a security patch, as we call it.
Security patches cover known points of entry for cyber criminals. Keep your software current by applying updates when available, and you can even set your updates to occur automatically.
Do they understand what cybersecurity is?
That's a good question. I don't really know. They probably have a fair idea, but not necessarily the full extent of what it would entail. I do highlight when there's things on the news, this is what's happened, this is why it's happened, and this can happen to you if you're not careful as well. So none of my kids have social media, which is a huge thing, to the best of my knowledge.
And what's your reasoning behind social media specifically? Why have you blacklisted that?
The time that they are wanting to have social media in those teenage years is just such an important time for their development. To take away that pressure to conform to what their friends are wanting of them and to be so connected, I hope is the right decision in the long run. Just gives them the scope to be who they need to be, not who they think their friends want them to be.
Social media, it's banned in this house, but how vulnerable are things like Facebook, your Instagram, your Twitter account? Are these targets for criminals?
They certainly are, and they usually use them to socially engineer attacks. So you often find people have at some point been emailed by a Facebook friend and they're in trouble in another country and needing money. And this is a socially engineered attack. It provides a level of assurance or security in that you know the person's sending you that email, but it's obviously fraudulently using that person's identity to try and get money from you.
In this case, inform your friend about the hack. They should change their password immediately. On all platforms, check your privacy settings and adjust accordingly. When it comes to posting photos, think twice. Wait to post holiday pics when you get home and don't share photos of where you live. But most importantly, turn off the GPS locators on your devices.
What about the camera that's on an iPhone or an iPad? Does that necessarily need to be always on? And what are the risks involved with that camera on an iPad or an iPhone?
There have actually been cases of webcams being controlled and that footage being publicly broadcast on a web page for anyone to see. And what was most horrifying to me as a mother was that some of that footage was actually from the bedroom of two 8-year-old twins.
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
So what can you actually do to prevent that?
Well, again, your router is really important, so making sure the router security is up to date. Any firmware updates for your router also contain security features, so it's really important that as soon as those are released, you update them immediately.
Consider setting these updates to occur automatically. Update firmware for all cameras connected to Wi-Fi. And when installing apps and programs, purchase from reputable providers such as Google Play or Apple iTunes.
So computers aside, how do I protect my iPhone and my iPad?
Well, the first step I would strongly recommend is preventing anyone gaining physical access to your device. So whether that's a swipe code, a PIN code, or a password. The important thing is everyone needs to realise how much of their lives is on their mobile device. Now think of losing that device in a public space and a complete stranger being able to pick it up and gain access to everything on that device. You know, it's horrifying to me.
It's scary stuff.
Yeah, it really is.
It sounds terrifying, but with first defences in place, you can also install a remote locator to track and find your device if stolen or lost. And you can also install remote technology that allows you to wipe sensitive information remotely. Up next, more ways to keep your home safe.
Strong, unique password is probably the simplest yet most important step you can take to securing your home network.
ECU's Research Development Advisor, Rochelle Fleming, has all the answers when it comes to home cyber safety.
What's the first thing a cyber criminal might look for in a house? What's that first point of contact for them?
Really cracking your passwords. To be perfectly honest, a strong, unique password is probably the simplest yet most important step you can take to securing your home network. And this is for all of your accounts, your Wi-Fi network, and anything that's linking into your Wi-Fi network, any device.
And to demonstrate just how easy it is to hack a password, PhD student Priya puts mine to the test.
So Priya, what are we looking at here?
So this is an inexpensive piece of computer that can crack passwords.
So if I enter my standard password that I do use, what's going to happen?
It's going to crack in a number of seconds.
Password broken.
Yep.
So it's that easy.
Yes. So we advise that everyone use passwords which are more than 16 characters long, a combination of uppercase, lowercase, and special characters. Numbers are good as well to have inside, and they shouldn't belong in any dictionary words or words of other languages.
So how easy is it for a criminal to get a hold of, this sort of technology?
These are all components that are bought and assembled together, so it's not that hard.
Most of the time we leave our Wi-Fi and our Bluetooth on. Is this a smart move or not?
Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, if they're not automatically linking to a network, they will continue broadcasting until they find a network. So that's an open door onto your device.
To shut that door, turn your Bluetooth and Wi-Fi off when you're not using it. Set to only connect to trusted devices and set to undiscoverable where possible.
Almost everyone goes online to shop these days. How vulnerable are we using our credit cards and our debit cards to pay for things?
Look, I'd strongly recommend you don't use a debit card. Number one, that links into your bank account, so it's the balance of your bank account that's at risk.
But don't despair, your online shopping days aren't over. Try keeping one credit card just for online purchases with a lower limit. Use a payment service provider, such as PayPal or Google Pay. And stick to secure sites with HTTPS on the web address. The S stands for secure.
We hear that up to 9 points of internet connection in the average Australian house. The iPhone and the computer and the iPad, they're the obvious ones. What are the ones that aren't so obvious?
Well, your smart television, for example, your Wi-Fi or internet-connected security cameras, your internet-connected fridge. I'm even hearing that there are internet-connected kettles nowadays. So any of those is a potential doorway into your home network.
All these brand new products have made their way into our lives, into our homes, but they were probably set up more for convenience rather than safety.
Yeah, and until these devices, that are connected to the internet, it's like our smart TV, for example, people don't think of it this way, but it really is another computer in our home. It has software uploaded, it has applications uploaded, which are all potential ways into our home network.
And if you're freaking out about appliances taking over your home, here's a few tips. Don't use your smart appliances for sensitive transactions, such as banking. Keep your firmware updated and disconnect the smart features if you're not using them. And if you find yourself the victim of cybercrime, then contact ACORN, the Australian Cybercrime National Online Reporting Network. Report scams to ScamWatch And if you feel threatened or in danger, then contact the police.
Personally, I've never really put this much thought into cyber security. So, and all these things you're saying, it's quite overwhelming for people who've never even thought about it.
Yeah, and I can completely understand that. And the important thing to remember is these are simple steps. It's just some of your time, to be perfectly honest. No one step in its own right is going to give you 100% protection. Using as many of these suggestions as possible is what's going to give a good layer of protection around yourself, your family and your friends, particularly your home network.
It's easy to just ignore the warnings and hope that it doesn't happen to you, but the evidence is pretty clear, and it's not hard to protect yourself, your family, and your home.